All right, guys, welcome back to Remotely Wasted. I'm here to talk college football with you. My name's Nick. Usually I'm here with my co-host Jaden, but unfortunately this week Jaden had some things going on. Asked if I wanted to do it solo. I said, you know what? I'll give it a try. We'll see how it goes. We're wrapping up week 9 of college football, going into week 10. It's been a really interesting season so far. So normally how we start the podcast is we do our top 7 or top 6 power ranking of who we think are the current best teams in college football. Lately, Jaden's been doing a top 7. I've been doing a top 6, but ironically enough, I did 7 this week. So what I did this week is I did a PowerPoint just to keep myself organized since I don't have anybody else to kind of bring me back in if I go off on a tangent or anything. So I'm going to pull that up with my top 7 power rankings. Pull that up on PowerPoint. Let's get that shared to the screen. Looks like we're shared. Good to go. I'm going to play from the start. Number 7, I have BYU. BYU, 8-0. They got a good resume so far with 2 top 25 wins, one over K-State, one over SMU, and they're coming off of a 37-24 win over UCF. I would have BYU ranked a little bit higher had they not struggled so much against Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State is 3-4, not looking very good. So for BYU to struggle against Oklahoma State is a little alarming for me. But other than that, I think they've looked great. They dominated in their win over K-State. SMU was a close game, but SMU has proven to be a really good team as the season has gone on. So overall, I like BYU. I just need to see a little bit more from them, see how they fare. They get deeper into the season. How do they fare in the conference champion game? That's kind of what I'm looking for BYU. I just don't know how well they will fare in the playoffs themselves. But as of now, they're looking like a really, really solid team. Which brings me to number 6, Indiana. 8-0. Passing the eye test. They have 6 games with over 40 points. And the kind of downside to Indiana right now, no top 25 wins at the moment, which is unfortunate for their resume, but they're passing the eye test in almost every way for me. Coach Sig has done a fantastic job over at Indiana. He wins. Google him, just like he said. I think he's done a really good job there. I thought they played really good against Washington. Maybe it wasn't quite the dominating performance you would hope for, but you got to understand that's a lot of pressure with college game day being on campus. And I thought they performed well. I thought their showing against Nebraska was really eye opening for me, 56-7, which is pretty incredible considering the fact that Nebraska beat Colorado, who's now ranked, and they played Ohio State really, really close. And Ohio State, is ranked higher than Indiana in the polls. Cross comparison, I would say Indiana probably deserves to be higher than Ohio State. I guess I understand the reasoning of why Ohio State is so high. I guess it's because they have like the highest quality loss to Oregon. I'm not one to really believe in the quality losses. I don't think that does nothing for me when looking at a resume. A quality loss just isn't a worthy component to giving a team a higher spot. They don't really have any quality wins at Ohio State this year. Nothing that really does anything for you. And I know, cross comparisons on schedule and stuff, that's not really a good indicator of who's the better team. But I'm just gonna throw it out there. Indiana whooped Nebraska. Ohio State, they struggled a little bit. I have more question marks about Ohio State than I do about Indiana at the moment. That brings me to number 5, Miami. Kind of a similar situation, to BYU. Well, not so much to BYU, but more to Indiana. They just don't really have any big wins so far this season, but they do have 5 games where they've scored 40 plus points. They don't have any current top 25 wins, so that's not the greatest look for them, like I said. And they had close calls against Virginia Tech, Cal, and Louisville. So that's a little bit of a question mark. They've struggled against not the best teams in the world so far, and they really haven't played anybody. So we'll see, if they get a shot at a Clemson, like will they be able to handle opponent of that quality? And that's just a question I have for them. But listen, they have a great leader in Cam Ward, Heisman contender. I think, he's throwing the ball out like crazy. I think he's got like something like 2,600 passing yards already, and it's only like halfway through the season, a little bit more than that. I don't know. Miami's passing the eye test in certain aspects, but their defense is a question mark for me. And their defense just doesn't look like a championship caliber defense. I think Miami could easily sneak into the playoffs even if they lose to Clemson. So ultimately, I think Miami will be there, whether or not it's as a conference champion or as a lower seed. I don't know, because I really don't see them losing any other game this season besides to Clemson. So we'll see. We'll see how Miami fares. I'm excited. I'm excited to see them play decent teams. I'm not I don't know. I'm not sold on them, but they have a very exciting offense, and I'd love to see a matchup against Clemson. Number four, Penn State. Penn State, they're a question mark for me almost every year. Every year we question, is Penn State a contender? And then every year it seems like they prove that they're not. They do have a high quality win, in my opinion, over Illinois. Illinois, they got beat pretty badly by Oregon over this past weekend, but overall, they've been a solid team, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I don't really mind Altmaier as a quarterback. I think he's pretty solid. Mm, listen, Penn State's had some close calls. They squeaked one out against Bowling Green. That was eye-opening. I think that was like week 1 or 2. That was concerning. Close game against USC. USC not the best team this year, but it is a Lincoln Riley offense. It was a home game for USC. I could almost understand it, and that's a lot of travel from Pennsylvania to Los Angeles. So I kind of give them a pass on that. And in Wisconsin, they didn't play great. It was pretty close until that interception, I think, in maybe the third quarter or so. That kind of locked the deal up for Penn State. They play Ohio State this weekend. Huge game, big stage. I think James Franklin only has one win over Ohio State. And I think Ryan Day is only like 2-5 against top five teams. So it's kind of, which one is more prevalent? Is James Franklin that bad against Ohio State, or is Ryan Day really that bad against top five teams? We'll see. This is, it's a very good defense that Penn State has. And I think it's an elite defense. The offense is not the best. It's hit or miss. If Penn State was going to beat Ohio State, I feel like this would be the year. But we'll get into that, when we talk about predictions and everything towards the end. But just don't know about Penn State. We'll learn a lot about Penn State this weekend. Number three, I have Georgia. This is going to be a hot take, my number three and number two. So Georgia ranked wins over Clemson, beat down week 1, then a really good win over the number 1 team in the nation at the time, the Texas Longhorns. 2-score win, could have been more. Had that referee nonsense not happened. They do have a loss to Alabama, close call to Kentucky, but they really passed the eye test for me against Texas. So I'm curious to see which Georgia we're getting, as the late season push starts happening. Because if this Georgia against Texas shows up every week, might as well just hand Kirby Smart the trophy. They're that good. But that was really the only game besides the Clemson game where we really got to see that Georgia. They didn't play great against Mississippi State. They struggled against Kentucky. They didn't really play that great against Auburn. They, they just haven't looked alive the whole season. Carson Beck's had an interception problem. But, just the way they looked against Texas makes me think Georgia has another title run in them. So we'll see. This next, my number two is going to be the most controversial part of the episode. Hot take, biggest hot take I have of the year. Wish Jaden was on this episode to see this hot take. Texas A&M. That's who I have at number 2. They got two ranked wins over Missouri and LSU. They did have a loss to Notre Dame, and they had a close call against Bowling Green as well as Arkansas. But listen, their resume, I'm normally a resume guy, but I have Texas A&M number two solely based off eye test and what I saw from Marcel Reed on Saturday night. He added just a whole nother dimension to their offense. He was cooking them on the run. And then, he had that, like, what was it, like 70-yard touchdown or 60-yard touchdown, something like that. Super accurate, because you're thinking when he first comes in the game, oh, he's just mobile. He's just mobile. That's why they haven't been playing him because he can't throw, but he can throw. That was the most electrifying performance I've seen from a player this entire season. No, no exaggeration. That was the most, well, other than Ashton Genty, but on this big of a stage, primetime game, I don't know. That was insane. And if he continues to play like this, I don't know who can beat Texas A&M with the defense they have with Mike Elko, Colin Klein at offensive coordinator, the 12th man for their crowd. They just look unbeatable with Marcel Reed. He made an instant everything turned around for Texas A&M the moment he came in. And it was only one game. Maybe next week I come on here looking like an idiot because A&M lost. But what I saw from them was better than almost anything I've seen all season. Once they made that QB switch. Number one, I got Oregon. Easy choice. Three ranked wins: Boise State, Ohio State, Illinois. Dylan Gabriel playing lights out, looking like a Heisman contender. And they've just passed the eye test for me pretty much ever since that Boise State game. Struggled against Idaho week one, struggled against Boise State week two. Ever since then, they feel like they're kind of coasting. Dan Lanning, he's a really, really smart coach. You saw that at the end of the Ohio State game. He knows how to take advantage of any situation that he can. And, with Dylan Gabriel as a leader, they got a lot of speed on offense. I just, I don't know. There's nothing bad you can say about Oregon right now. I think they're doing a fantastic job. So that's my top six. So to recap, I went with BYU are my top seven. BYU 7, Indiana 6, Miami 5, Penn State 4, Georgia 3, Texas A&M 2, Oregon 1. So let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with me on that. Alrighty. So that brings me to game of the week. For me, I had a K-State versus Kansas 29-27 K-State victory. Kansas has been horrible this year, only winning two games. But this is what I love about college football when you have a really bad team like Kansas with a team that's kind of fighting for a playoff spot like K-State and Kansas almost wins just based off the hatred of that rivalry. Just reminds me of why I like college football. After that, we got best performance by a team over the weekend. I went with Alabama, 34-0 victory over Missouri. They ran the ball really well. They had been struggling the past few weeks, dropping one to Tennessee, dropping one to Vanderbilt, struggling the second half of the Georgia game. They just haven't been looking like the Alabama that we know. This was more like that. Ran the ball really well, shut the opponent out. It gives you some hope if you're a Bama fan. Things seem like they're getting a little rocky, like maybe this is a turning point for Alabama. We'll see how they get better as the season goes along. After that, I have the most disappointing team performance of the week. I went to Navy, had really high hopes for Navy, lost 51-14 to Notre Dame. This was the game, honestly, I thought maybe they could win. Blake Horvath has been looking really, really good at quarterback this year. Um, really mobile guy. Navy's like shown signs that they could pass a little bit. I think Horvath had like the number one QBR in the country. Disappointing loss. I hope Army doesn't share a similar fate, but we shall see. Player of the week, I went with Kyron Drones. He didn't do anything super, super crazy. I think he only threw for like 130 yards, but he had a hat trick. Passing touchdown, rushing touchdown, receiving touchdown. So thought that was a fantastic thing. It never almost never happens where you got a quarterback doing all three. So that's why I went with Kyron Jones for my player of the week. Most disappointing player of the week for me was Drew Pine. Came in for an injured Cook on Missouri, and they're, you know, beat down that they got from Alabama. Drew Pine, if he was like a true freshman coming into this game, I could almost excuse it. High pressure situation against Bama. You don't know how it's going to turn out with a young quarterback, but Drew Pine's kind of been around for a little bit. He was at Notre Dame and he went 6 for 12, 42 yards passing, three interceptions. He's just a little bit too experienced of a quarterback to let the moment get to him that badly. Just not a good performance from Drew Pine. Now we get into my Heisman top five. Each week we do a Heisman top five. For the past few weeks, we've been saying it's basically just Ashton Genty and everybody who's behind him. The race is starting to get a little bit closer. Ashton Genty, I believe, only had like 130 yards, which is, ridiculous. Only 130 yards. But he's just played that well this season, that's where we're at. So yeah, we'll get into the top five Heisman contenders for me. Number five, I have Bryson Daly, quarterback for Army, if you didn't know. Um, he's on like the odds makers list, but he's pretty low on it. But for me, I've just been completely impressed with this guy. He has only 629 passing yards, but passing touchdowns, not a single interception thrown yet. Fourth in QBR in the nation. And he has, get this, 19 rushing touchdowns on 909 rushing yards from a quarterback. Granted, it is Army. They do run the triple option, but that's ridiculous. And Army's undefeated right now. Right now people aren't really throwing his name out there, but let Army get a upset over Notre Dame. I think at that point people are going to start looking at Bryson Daly as a Heisman contender. And Army's done great. Their offense is actually, it's like I watched a couple games and it's like they mostly just run the triple option, but every now and then they'll just kind of line up in a normal formation, normal play, and it really, really throws off the defense because they've been defending against the triple option for the whole night. But Bryson Daly having a really good season. Number four, I have Travis Hunter. I think I took him off the list the last episode we made, or maybe I had him at five. He had a really good game this past weekend. Um, on the season, he has 757 receiving yards, 8 touchdowns on 60 catches. I think that's pretty efficient. He's averaging 12.6 per catch. He has two interceptions on defense, one defensive touchdown, and he has that crucial forced fumble that won them the game a few weeks back. He's just playing so many snaps. He's just doing things we've never seen before. He's an amazing athlete. He's a amazing athlete from what I've read and what I've heard. Excellent student, excellent teammate. I just think I feel like he needs to do a little bit more statistically to really, really be the favorite, but a lot of the odds makers have him number one odds to get it right now. Three, I have Cam Ward. This is somebody that a lot of people might have one or two. And for me, it's just kind of the lack of competition that he's played against. But yeah, almost, he's pushing 2,800 passing yards already, 24 passing touchdowns. He's third in the QBR in the entire nation. Got three additional rushing touchdowns. So he's pushing like a 30 total touchdown mark. He's having a fantastic year statistically. I just haven't seen that Heisman moment from him yet, and maybe that'll come along, later in the season. Maybe he'll do something super, super incredible, but he's definitely in contention. Just hasn't faced the level of competition, or really, he hasn't face level of competition that the guy I have at number two has, and he hasn't just done the earth shattering things that the person I have at number one has. But overall, I do like Cam Ward, and I think he has a really good shot to win the Heisman. For some reason, his picture's like way smaller. The I couldn't get the same design for the slide for Cam Ward's for whatever reason that it would give me for these other guys. So it's nothing personal against Cam Ward. Think he's a great dude. Just PowerPoint doing its PowerPoint thing. Number two, Dylan Gabriel. Um, Signature win against Ohio State. No other really Heisman contender has anything like that. Plus, he has two other top 25 wins. Um, Passing yards, he's not super far behind. He's about 400 yards behind Cam Ward. 18 passing touchdowns. He's seventh in QBR. He has five rushing touchdowns. So he's looking at like 23 total touchdowns, which isn't too bad. I think if Oregon keeps winning, if they keep being the number one team, and he just puts up, his 250 to 300 yards a game, gets like three plus touchdowns a game, he has a good shot at it. I just don't think he has a good shot, as good of a shot as Ashton Genty. Uh, Looks like he's pushing 1,400 yards, 18 rushing touchdowns. He's averaging 8.7 yards carry. Um, his average went down a little bit. UNLV kind of gave him a little bit of a hard time. It wasn't his best performance against UNLV, but still, what he's done so far this season, he's on pace probably to rush over 2,000 yards. Um, who knows how many touchdowns? 25 to 30, maybe more than that by the time the season's over. I just think he's having an historical year. Um, Hope he can get to the Barry Sanders record. I don't know how realistic that's looking at the moment compared to how I felt about it a couple weeks ago, but I still think it's a possibility. Still don't think there's anybody really better than him so far this season that's impressed me enough to get me to where I think somebody else should win the Heisman. So that was my Heisman top five. Stop the screen share on that for a moment. Yeah, so what we normally do after we go through all of those categories that I just went through, we normally talk about our favorite teams and how they're doing. I am a Oklahoma Sooners fan, as anybody who's watched this show knows, and Jaden's the Florida State Seminole fan. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna talk about both. So let's see. Got the screen pulled up, ESPN, got the OU schedule pulled up. So OU is just coming off of a 26-14 loss to Ole Miss. Um, Jackson Arnold back in at quarterback just isn't, he looked a lot better than he had earlier in the season. The defense wasn't all there, and the offense really wasn't all there either, and they haven't been all season. You know, uh, Looks like Jackson Arnold threw for 182 yards, two touchdowns, which that's good. He's pushing 200. Hasn't done that a whole lot this season. Didn't run the ball super well. Didn't really have a good receiver to get open. Just overall, it's just kind of a bad overall vibe with the Sooners right now. Things just aren't playing out the way we thought they would first year in the SEC. We got Maine this weekend, 34-point favorites, I believe. We win that. We need to win one more to get bowl eligible. Missouri's been struggling a lot, might not have their quarterback. Maybe we can win that game. We'll see about that. Um, right now we have Joe John Finley calling the plays. This is kind of his trial run at OC if he wants to keep that job. And based off what we saw Saturday, he's probably not going to keep it. Although this was, in my opinion, a major step forward from the previous week with South Carolina. So, I mean, things feel like they're improving, but by how much we'll see as the season goes along. We'll see. It's just like I used to get on here and be like excited to talk about my team, but this year it's just been so bad and so depressing. And I just feel like I'm beating a dead horse. We have a terrible offense. Defense is really good. This was the first game where I really felt like they gave up points and plays and stuff, and it was really all on them. All the other games we lost, it kind of felt like, okay, that's the offense's fault. And this loss I would say is more on the offense because they just can't score. They can't move the ball to the end zone. We got stopped, I believe, on fourth down going for it to start the game. So we almost scored 21. It's like a step in the right direction, but at this point, we're Oklahoma. We shouldn't be excited about only scoring 20 points. So we'll see how Jackson Arnold improves. He's probably going to be the starter the rest of the way. Michael Hawkins most likely getting his red shirt. We will just have to see how the rest of the season goes for OU right now. Let's see. Florida State now. Florida State wants to type. Florida State is probably like the other team I've watched the most this season. Um, Unfortunately, I didn't really watch much of this game. This was one of the few games this season with Florida State where I knew they were about to lose and I just didn't even want to watch it. Most games this season, I felt like okay, they got a shot. I'll turn it on, give it a chance. We'll see. But unfortunately, just didn't really have a chance against Miami. Um, I'll have to ask Jaden what happened with the quarterback situation. Looks like Luke Cromenhoke came in. He's a five-star quarterback, supposedly the future of the program. So I don't know if they were just like tired of Brock Glenn or if something happened. I don't know why my computer's spazzing out. If something, or like if Brock Glenn was playing so bad they had to bench him, or if Brock Glenn got hurt. I didn't really watch the game to know that. So I'll have to talk to Jaden. I'm sure he'll talk about this weekend, the upcoming week on the next episode. Um, Looks like Luke ran the ball really well, 71 yards for a quarterback. That's not bad. Toafili, it looks like he had 26 yards on 6 carries. Toafili was a guy I had really high hopes for going into this season. Unfortunately, I don't know if it's him or if it's all on the O line, but just not doing super great. And defense, obviously, it looks like they struggled. Um, gave up gave up a lot of points against Miami. Let's see. So you got kind of like a play by play. See what happened. Let's go to the scoring summary. All right. Mm. Yeah, it looks like Miami is pretty much in control from the moment this game started. Wow. Yeah, I mean Florida State's they're just in a bad spot right now. Let's see what the rest of their schedule's looking like. I I'm just curious. Let's see. I mean, it's not the best year for Florida State. Obviously going 13-0 last year, winning the AC championship, getting left out because Jordan Travis breaks his leg. Going in this year, they got DJU coming off a decent year in Oregon State. Had some moments at Clemson. You're thinking they got a pretty good quarterback. He loses first 3 games. Looks like he won one against Cal, that 14-9 narrow victory. SMU beats him down. DJ gets hurt. And then, ever since, they played Clemson better than they should have. So, you can't hate too much on that. Duke, I feel like they gave the game away with penalties. but it was still a close game. Like they could have won. And then Miami, I just feel like they never really had a shot. So North Carolina, then Notre Dame, then Charleston Southern, then Florida. This moment, I don't know much about Carolina. At this moment, though, you got to think they probably lose all of these except for Charleston. You know, they probably get their second win there. Florida, I feel like could go either way just because of the rivalry. But early this season, Florida wasn't looking good. They're 4-3 now. They're not looking terrible. They look like they got some fight to them. I don't know how Mike and Florida State's chances now after kind of seeing the way that Florida's played the past few weeks, kind of exceeding expectations. But it is at Florida State. I think that does give them a decent advantage there as well. But we'll just see, does Mike Norvell get to keep his job or does he not? That's kind of what we're looking at. But yeah, I didn't probably go into Florida State as well as I could have, or OU. Um, it's just been kind of the same old story for both of these teams every week. So we'll do the look ahead for next week's games. Let's see what we got going on here. Might make some predictions. Let you guys know what I think. Um, San Diego State, Boise State. Um, Good matchup. San Diego State has a really good uh right edge rusher. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. He had something like 11 sacks or something crazy. Decent defense going against Ashton Genty. Still, I think Boise State is just too talented of a team. I think they win. Fun Friday night game. Ohio State, Penn State. Biggest game of the week, obviously. Top five matchup. I'm going to go Penn State. I'm going to go Penn State. I like the home crowd advantage. I like the defense. We'll see if Drew Aller plays. I'm going to assume that he does. I think I'm about to look that up real quick. Actually, does Drew Aller play this week? See his status for Ohio State. Let's see. He was a full participant of the practice this week. Yeah, it looks like he's gonna play him. It looks like he's gonna play him. I'm going Penn State. Duke Miami, upset alert. Upset alert here. Miami's gonna win, but it's gonna be a lot closer. It's gonna be another one of those games where Cam Ward's gonna squeak it out for Miami. Let's see. Ole Miss, Arkansas. Mm, I'm gonna go Arkansas. Ole Miss wasn't looking good against Oklahoma. Has struggled to score against SEC opponents. Fayetteville's not the easiest place in the world to play. Going Arkansas. Army's gonna destroy Air Force. Let's see. Illinois, Minnesota could be good. I think Illinois probably squeaks that one out. I think Oregon probably beats Michigan something like 24-3 or something. Georgia, I think, beats Florida down. Mm, I think Texas Tech beats Iowa State. I don't know. Something in my guts telling me that Texas Tech's got a good offense. It is an Ames, tough place to play, but I don't know. Something tells me Iowa State's on upset alert, and it's gonna be Texas Tech. I think Indiana destroys Michigan State. K-State, I think, beats Houston decisively. A&M South Carolina is gonna be a really good game. Like I said, if Marcel, I think that's his name, Marcel Reed plays as good as he did against LSU, it's an easy win for A&M, despite how good that South Carolina defense is. I will say that. Let's see. Kentucky playing Tennessee. Um, like I like Tennessee in that one. SMU Pitt. I think SMU actually wins that one pretty decisively. Looks like I only pulled up the top 25. I want to see a little bit more than just the top 25. Let's see if it'll move it for me. Okay. I knew that didn't make sense because I was like, there's got to be a Thursday night game. Okay, let's see what else we got going on here. It'll let me scroll down. Okay. Looks like these games have already happened. Okay, talked about that, talked about that. Northwestern Purdue, who knows? Stanford, NC State. I'll give NC State the slight edge there. Virginia Tech, Syracuse. Give me Virginia Tech. Actually, no, fuck that. Give me Syracuse. I like Kyle McCord. Don't know anything about Buffalo and Akron. Toledo, Eastern Michigan. Don't know anything about them really. Memphis, really good team. Watched them against Florida State. Beat UTSA pretty decisively. Vanderbilt, I think gets a. I think it's Auburn's not the best place to play. It's pretty tough. I think Vanderbilt wins, um, in a close one. Oklahoma 34-point favorites over Maine. Think we win. Do we cover the spread? I don't know. Old Dominion, App State. Don't watch either of those. Tulsa's right around the corner from me. Should I watch more of them? Probably. Do I? No, I have no idea with Tulsa or UAB. Let's see. What else have I not covered on here? UCLA, Nebraska. I think Nebraska beats UCLA by a pretty decent margin. Uh, I think North Carolina probably beats Florida State. Hmm. I like Arizona against UCF. Like Arizona in that game. Middle Tennessee, UTEP, don't know about them. Ole Monroe, Marshall, don't know nothing about them. Wyoming, you know that Wyoming has been pretty good. So I'm surprised to see they're only 1-7 this year. Weird. Coastal Carolina, don't know much about them. Navy, I do think they have a bounce back game against Rice. I think they beat the dog shit out of Rice. Mississippi State, I think gets the win against Massachusetts. They've actually looked pretty good in a lot of their losses. I I think they beat I think they beat Massachusetts by a lot. I think it's a blowout. Arizona State, Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State's looked horrible this year. 0-5 in the Big 12. I think they've lost like three straight. This is a really bad year. People are calling for Mike Gundy's head. But with all that being said, they do got that man Ollie Gordon in that backfield. Arizona State, 5-2, but are they the real deal? Stillwater's a tough place to play. Mike Gundy usually figures it out late in the season. Give me Oklahoma State. Let's see. Don't watch Hawaii or Fresno State. Let's see. Louisville, Clemson. I think I just, so I think Clemson wins that one. Wisconsin, Iowa. Mm, battle of the defenses. Give me Wisconsin. Um, I think USC beats Washington. I've seen a little bit more from USC than I have Washington. Besides that, let's see. My computer's just kind of spazzing out on me. Um, TCU Baylor. I like TCU in that one. Uh, Colorado State, Nevada. Who knows? Give me Colorado State, I guess. But yep, that's my predictions for next week. Pretty much the end of the episode. Be back here next week, hopefully with Jaden on with me. Um, and hopefully be a little bit more of a fun episode. I know this one was a little bit more straightforward than you guys probably used to because I just don't have anybody to bounce things off with. But hope you guys liked it. Like, subscribe, comment, all that good shit. And we'll catch you next week. Let me see if I can close this. Let's see. Hmm. Hmm. There we go. Now I can end the video. Catch y'all next week. Roll Tide.